Have you ever been treated like you didn't belong, as if your presence alone was a mistake? Before we begin this story, tell me, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and give this video a like if you believe that everyone deserves respect, no matter who they are. Now, let me tell you about Monica Brown. Monica was a 38-year-old black woman with elegance in her posture and kindness in her smile. To the world, she was known only by two letters, MB, the mysterious restaurant critic whose words could make or break any dining spot in the city. But what few realized was that behind those initials stood a woman who believed that food was more than taste. It was humanity, warmth, and how we treat one another. That night, Monica decided to visit one of the city's most talked-about restaurants, a place called Le Chateau. The kind of place that appeared in glossy magazines and drew the rich and powerful. She didn't arrive in a limousine or dressed in designer clothes. She preferred simplicity, wearing a modest but refined dark blue dress that matched her calm confidence. When she stepped into the marble-floored lobby, she was met not with a greeting, but with a glance. A quick, dismissive look from the young hostess standing behind the podium. The woman was tall, slim, perfectly polished, her tone as cold as the crystal chandeliers above. Monica smiled politely and said she would like a table for one. The hostess didn't answer right away. Her eyes drifted over Monica from head to toe, pausing at her modest purse at the absence of luxury brands that usually filled this place. "Do you have a reservation?" she asked finally, voice coated in sugar but sharp underneath. Monica replied softly, "No, but I believe there should be some tables available." The hostess gave a practiced smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. "I'm afraid all tables are taken tonight." Monica turned her head slightly. She could see at least 3 empty tables along the wall, one still shining with clean glasses and folded napkins. She didn't argue. She didn't need to. Instead, she simply nodded and said, "Thank you anyway." But the silence in the lobby felt heavy. Behind her, a well-dressed couple walked in. The hostess's smile transformed, suddenly warm, welcoming. "Good evening, welcome to Le Chateau. Right this way." Monica stood quietly as the couple passed, their heels clicking against the floor. A few people waiting nearby looked at her with curiosity. One even smirked faintly. Monica kept her composure, her expression calm, but inside a quiet ache stirred. Quiet ache. It wasn't anger. It was that familiar disappointment that comes when people choose to see color before character. She turned to leave, but before she could step away, she noticed movement in the corner of her eye. A man was seated near the window reading a menu with the relaxed air of someone used to being in control. It was Oliver Reed, the owner of Le Chateau himself, a man known in the industry for his perfectionism and cold demeanor. Monica recognized him from an old interview she'd read. For a brief second, their eyes met. Oliver's gaze lingered just long enough to register mild surprise and then disinterest. He turned back to his menu, pretending not to notice the small scene unfolding in his own restaurant. Monica felt that sting, the one that comes not from words, but from silence. Still, she offered a faint smile, nodded to herself, and left quietly. Outside, the city air was crisp. Streetlights reflected off the wet pavement, and the night smelled faintly of rain and roasted chestnuts from a nearby vendor. Monica walked slowly, each step deliberate. She wasn't defeated, just thoughtful. She'd seen this before, she'd written about it before, but tonight it wasn't a story about some stranger, it was her story, and she knew exactly what she was going to do with it. Behind her, laughter drifted from the restaurant doors, the kind of laughter that fills rooms but empties hearts. Monica looked up at the sky, then whispered to herself, "Let them have their full tables. I have something fuller." She adjusted her purse and kept walking, her heels clicking against the sidewalk like a quiet metronome of resolve. What none of them knew, neither the dismissive hostess nor the proud owner, was that the woman they had just turned away was about to change everything for them. Because sometimes, the person you ignore is the one holding your future in their hands. Humiliation, the name Le Chateau, filled every corner of the city, but not for its luxury. Phones rang non-stop, Emails poured in, and whispers spread like wildfire through the fine dining world. A new review had just dropped, written by the city's most influential food critic, the elusive MB. The article was merciless, elegant, and impossible to ignore. It began with the words, "A restaurant's true flavor is not in its food, but in how it treats those who enter." Then it went on to describe Le Chateau as a place where courtesy bows to arrogance, and the promise of refinement hides behind a wall of prejudice. Within hours, the post had been shared thousands of times. People who had dreamed of dining there were suddenly questioning everything. Oliver Reed, the proud owner, read the review at his office desk, jaw tightening with every line. His fingers drummed against the polished wood as his eyes burned with disbelief. "Who is this MB?" he demanded, voice sharp enough to slice through the air. His managers exchanged nervous glances. We're trying to find out, sir," one of them stammered. "But no one knows their identity. They use a pseudonym, never post photos." Oliver slammed his hand down. "Someone must know. I want a name today." Downstairs, the staff whispered among themselves. The hostess, Lena, stood pale behind the podium, scrolling through the review on her phone. Her stomach twisted. Every word felt like a mirror held up to her behavior. "A hostess who looks past people instead of welcoming them," the review said. She could still see Monica's calm face, her quiet dignity. A lump rose in her throat as realization struck. She had done this to herself, to all of them. While the chaos unfolded at Le Chateau, across town, Monica Brown sat by the window of a small neighborhood cafe, the kind of place that served kindness with every cup. The sun filtered through lace curtains and the smell of roasted beans lingered in the air. Her laptop was open, notifications pinging nonstop. She didn't smile in triumph. She simply stirred her coffee. Her phone buzzed. It was her colleague, another critic and an old friend. "You've done it again, Monica," he said with a laugh. "The city's losing its mind. You started a storm." She replied softly, "I didn't start it. I just told the truth. People deserve to know where they'll be treated with respect." He chuckled. "You always were dangerous with a pen." Monica smiled faintly. "It's not danger, it's honesty." As she hung up, she glanced out the window, watching people hurry past. Waiters on break, office workers, young couples. To her, food was never just about taste. It was about humanity. And when humanity was missing, the meal turned bitter no matter how fancy the ingredients. Back at the restaurant, the tension was thick enough to taste. A meeting was called that evening. Urgent, unplanned. The dining room was empty, lights dimmed except for the glow above the long oak table where the staff gathered. Oliver stood at the head of it, holding a printout of the review like a piece of evidence. "This," he said, voice steady but cold, "is not who we are. This review will destroy us if we don't act now. I want everyone to think. Who was in charge that night? Who greeted guests?" No one spoke. Lena's throat tightened. Her mind replayed that moment. The woman in the dark blue dress, standing patiently while others were seated. Her voice barely above a whisper. "That would be me, sir." Oliver looked at her, his jaw stiff. "And what happened?" "She came without a reservation," Lena murmured, eyes on the floor. "We were full." He raised an eyebrow. "Were we?" She hesitated. "No, sir." A silence fell over the table, heavy and suffocating. Oliver exhaled, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Then we fix it. We do what we should have done from the start. We make this right." He paused, glancing at the review again. "We're going to invite this critic back for a private dinner. I'll host it myself. We'll show them the real Le Chateau." The staff nodded nervously, unsure if this plan would save them or doom them further. That night, Oliver sat in his office alone, drafting the message himself. His assistant suggested a formal PR statement, but he refused. "No press release," he said. "Just sincerity." He typed slowly, carefully. "Dear MB, I would like to personally invite you to return to Le Chateau. We value feedback deeply and wish to offer an experience that reflects who we truly are. Dinner, at your convenience, on the house. He signed it simply, sincerely, Oliver Reed. When the email was sent, he leaned back, staring out the window into the dark city skyline. For the first time in years, his reflection looked unsure. Days passed. Preparations began for what the staff now called the redemption dinner. Every plate was polished twice, every detail rehearsed. The chefs were instructed to perfect their dishes as if the world depended on it. Lena rehearsed her greetings in the mirror, desperate to erase the memory of that first night. "Good evening. Welcome to Le Chateau," she whispered again and again, trying to soften the edges of her voice. Finally, the evening arrived. The restaurant glowed with soft golden light, music played at just the right volume, and the air carried the scent of fresh herbs and confidence. Every worker was alert, waiting for the mysterious critic to appear. The clock ticked closer to 7. Then, the door opened. A hush swept through the room as a familiar figure stepped inside. Monica Brown, in an elegant ivory dress and the same calm, kind expression, walked toward the podium. Lena froze, her heart racing. The woman she had dismissed so easily stood before her again, serene, graceful, unbothered. The hostess forced a smile, voice trembling slightly. "Good evening, madam. Do you have a reservation?" Monica's lips curved into a soft smile. "Yes, under MB." The room seemed to stop breathing. Lena blinked, confusion turning to dawning horror. Oliver, standing near the bar, turned his head at the sound of that name. For a moment, he simply stared, unable to reconcile the quiet woman before him with the powerful critic who had shaken his world. Monica's eyes met his across the room, calm and steady. She didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She simply waited. And in that quiet, every person present understood. Nothing about tonight would be ordinary. The woman they had ignored was the very one they had sought to impress. The truth had walked right back through their doors. The restaurant was silent except for the soft sound of glasses clinking. Monica Brown sat gracefully at a table by the window, her calm presence drawing quiet attention from everyone around her. When Oliver Reed approached with his usual confident smile, he had no idea that the moment ahead would shift his entire perspective. "Good evening," he said warmly. "We're honored to host a guest of Mr. MB tonight." Monica looked up at him, her expression polite but unreadable. She took a slow breath before replying in her soft, steady voice. "Actually, Mr. Reed, I am MB." The words seemed to hang in the air, freezing time itself. Conversation stopped. The hostess, Lena, standing nearby, went pale. A waiter nearly dropped a tray. Oliver blinked, confusion crossing his face before realization dawned. You wrote the review?" he asked quietly, his tone shifting from disbelief to shame. Monica nodded gently. "Yes," she said, her voice calm, even kind. "I came that night not as a critic, not as anyone important, but simply as a customer. And I was invisible." She didn't sound angry, just tired, perhaps even disappointed. "I wanted to experience your restaurant the way any person would, but I wasn't given a chance to even sit down." Oliver's shoulders lowered. The confident businessman now looked like a man seeing his own reflection for the first time. "Ms. Brown," he began, his voice breaking slightly. "I am deeply sorry. That night, that was not who we want to be." Monica met his eyes, her tone still warm but firm. "Mr. Reed, people often think hospitality is about the food, but taste begins long before the first bite. It begins with how you make someone feel when they walk through your door." Oliver sat in silence, her words hitting harder than any bad review could. Around them, the staff listened, learning a lesson they would not soon forget. Monica stood up slowly, placed her business card on the table, and smiled faintly. "Thank you for the meal. I hope next time it's offered with a little more kindness." She walked toward the exit with quiet dignity, her figure calm and graceful, leaving behind a room filled with guilt, awe, and reflection. The next morning, the city woke up to an unexpected statement on social media. Le Chateau publicly apologized for its behavior, and announced a new policy of hospitality training for all staff. The post ended with a quote from the owner himself. "Every person who walks into this restaurant deserves respect. Without it, excellence loses all meaning." The comment section flooded with praise, forgiveness, and support. Meanwhile, in her apartment, sunlight streamed through the window as Monica sat at her desk with a cup of coffee, her fingers gliding across the keyboard. Her new review read, "Sometimes even the coldest walls can learn to hold warmth. Growth begins with humility, and respect is the finest ingredient any restaurant can offer." She paused for a moment, rereading her own words, and smiled softly to herself. She wasn't trying to punish anyone. She was reminding them of something that should never have been forgotten. Later that day, she received an email from Oliver. It was short, genuine, and simple. "Thank you for teaching us what truly matters." Monica closed her laptop and looked out the window, watching people pass by. All different, all beautiful in their own way. And in that quiet moment, she felt peace. The voice of the narrator grows gentle, almost reflective, carrying the moral of the story. Never judge a person by how they look. Beneath a simple dress may be someone who can change your destiny. Respect is not a courtesy. It is a reflection of your true character. A soft pause follows, and then the tone brightens with sincerity. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. Your support helps us share more stories that remind the world what kindness truly means.